I'm so excited to have you on today. This is like goals. I'm so stoked to have you here. I think the best way to really kick this off is to get a little bit of information about like who you are, how you came into the beauty industry. I'm sure a lot of people are already familiar with who you are, but I think going a little bit ways back and getting kind of like what kickstarted your beauty industry career. And I know you've taken a lot of avenues, and I just feel like it's so interesting to hear. And I'd love to know from the beginning.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm so stoked to be here. Obviously, like you and we've chatted, we worked together, all the things. I was kind of like thrown into it, honestly. It was 2015. I was bartending and I was serving, and I don't think anyone really like chooses lashes, right? I think a lot of the times the beauty industry is like I feel like there's still some sort of a taboo, and maybe not so much anymore, but at that time, definitely. Like you ended up in the beauty industry if you didn't know what you wanted to do. And it was very much that. But I'm from a small town in Connecticut. I'm originally from Estonia and moved to the States when I was 13. But the lash just really fell onto my lap, and it grew really rapidly, really quick. I'm from a small town in Plainfield, Connecticut. You can look it up if you want. I had a cute little studio over there. I started training all the things, and it quickly shifted to me not wanting to stay in a small town. I feel like in order to really grow my business and the vision that I had, I knew that I wanted to move. So I put myself through aesthetic school. I was still lashing pretty much every day. I was driving from Connecticut to Rhode Island to beauty school for 6 months to have my esthetician's license because at the time in Connecticut you didn't need it.
Okay.
Um, so did all of that. Literally worked my booty off. It was like 70-hour weeks for like 6 months straight.
Oh my
And
god.
then it was absolutely horrendous because it was like 45-minute drive from a one way from, Connecticut. It was literally school was I think 9 to 4, so I would like leave at 8, get to school for 9, leave at 4, get to work for 5, work until 9, and literally over and over and over and over again. And then on my days off, I would just cram in all of my clients because, still bills and money, right? It's still like
Yeah.
had to keep the show rolling. And then did that, and then at the end of it, I ended up graduating early because I'm an overachiever and I wanted to get the hell out of that place as fast as I could. I just like hated being there. I had the experience that I think a lot of, people that have been in the industry for a while, that it was just the paperwork, right? It was just the license, the certificate in order to have it. Like I unfortunately didn't have like a good schooling
Yeah.
experience. My instructor was cool, but he was very much like we read the book. Like I could have done this shit at home. So I packed up all of my things, I sold everything, and I literally was like, I hope this works. So I drove across the country with my best friend. I chose Arizona, and I had never even been to Arizona before.
That's crazy.
I feel like, there's something about like in your mid-20s. I mean, I'm 32 now, but I think in mid-20s, like you just feel invincible. You're like, hell yeah, I can
So
do this. Like I didn't have any ties, like I didn't have, no kids, nothing. I was like, what can go wrong?
we're
What can go
fearless at that
wrong?
age.
Absolutely. And I like really just like, pat myself on the back for that, for like having courage and like having the drive to do so. So I came out to Arizona in July 2019. Like, mind you, in Connecticut too, I was fully booked. I was lashing and training. I was also traveling at the time, teaching salons on how to do lashes. And then I came out to Arizona. It was 2019 July, and I had saved up enough money to be okay for like 6-ish months. When I got here, like I paid my rent, I paid all the things like 3, 4 months out. So it kind of just gave me a little bit of a grace period to settle in and like, find a place and basically start all over. And COVID hit. I was like, okay, now what? And nobody has ever gone through all of that. And that was really, I think that was the peak of I took, oh my God, what's her name? It's sitting right. Vanessa Lau. I love her till this day. That was the first course that I took. It was $1,000. I forget what it was called, but it was basically like how to put a like an online course together.
Okay.
because so that was like my first 2019 to at the end of 2019 into 2020 is when I decided that I wanted to do online education, just because I kept on getting like repeating questions and messages in my inbox of like, like retention and fan placement and styling and all of those things. So I was like, okay, in order to like streamline this instead of like, spending hours and hours in my DMs, which like I so appreciate, helping and guiding, like that's something that I have always felt called to do, but it just took up a lot of my time. So I'm like, I need to
Yeah.
streamline this in another way. So that's kind of how like my first trainings were ever born. It was 2020. Literally, I think I sold them for like $37. Like it was super, very, very straightforward. Like it wasn't anything fancy. It was literally videos with my phone of like how I was doing stuff. And then obviously COVID hit, and then that was pretty much my main income stream at the time. And I also was the first one that created resin lash tiles. I don't know if any of you maybe remember that. If you're listening, if you are in the lash industry, I did resin lash tiles just because I was bored. I was at home. I had like nothing else to do, and that was like a super fun journey. So I dabbled a little bit in products, physical products, and that was super fun. But it was very short lived, just because a couple months later, doors opened back up, and the world kind of kept on going. But once I opened my doors again, it was the same thing. I was booked and busy. I opened up a new studio in Scottsdale. Like, just so grateful. It was definitely, it was a grind. I won't even lie. Moving and starting over, it really taught me just a lot about myself, like my resiliency, who I am as a person, what I really wanted. It kind of like gives you a chance to like revamp of like everything that you believe in, and like
Yeah.
how you want to run your business. But I was still doing online trainings, and then I was doing in-person trainings, and then it really just somehow ended up more on the business side of things, that I was like helping other beauty professionals with. And then I decided that I didn't want to lash anymore. I don't know. I just like hit that pivotal point, which is so interesting now, like looking back to, there's so many things that I would have done differently, but I didn't see it at the time, where I was working 4 days, but I was taking, like 5 to 6 clients a day, and like I was making bank. Like I was making such good money at the time too. I think that the price is standard now, but I was charging 150 for a fill and then 350 for a full set. And that was pretty high, which is kind of funny too, because when I first got to, actually a little bit of backtrack, when I first, if you're thinking of, like moving states and starting over, I think something to always look at is what the trends are where you're moving to.
Yeah.
Meaning, when I moved from Connecticut, I was a pro at basically true Russian volume, which is like 0.06, 0.07 fan diameter. And then when I got to Scottsdale, it was like mega, zero point zero 0.03, 13, 14, 15, 16, like super dense, super long lashes, just very like heavy volume, big, bold, and beautiful, like Midwest, right? And I was so taken back, because if I'm gonna be honest, I came to Scottsdale with I got this attitude. Like I genuinely felt like I was invincible, because I truly was good at my craft, and I obviously still am really good at my craft, but something that I failed to do was really look at the market and just see what styles were.
I think it's kind of sorry to interrupt your story, but I feel like that's such a good point because I feel like I we get so zoomed in. Even conversating with other people on social media, I'm just like I had a conversation with another brow artist and we were talking about different tints and I'm just like, "Oh, I don't really do those." Like and it's so funny because I think we forget that the demographics of our actual clients are totally different. There's so many services and if you're on the social media world, you can just see everything that we have to offer and oh, we want to give everything, right? We want to be so open to any customized kind of look and style and whatever and then we forget that clients don't even want that and like our specific area is different than other artists' areas.
Yeah, and I had to completely learn a new way of lashing. So I was, yeah, a whole new way of lashing, and I was so thrown off. Like, not was I only building, my books all over again. I was looking for a spot all over again. I needed to like totally like take a
So
different approach with my craft. So I ended up getting a job with Lash Bomb, which if you are in lashes, you know who Lash Bomb is. They have been around for a really long time. And Jill is an angel. I worked with her for front desk at the at the Lash studio, literally practicing fans while I was at work. And that was, kind of how I was able to hone in. And I was there, I think, 3 nights a week, and every day that I was there, it was just, like, product pickup, so I wasn't, like, super busy all the time. I would get, like, little rushes, but all in between that, I was pinching. That was, like, what I learned to do, so I was pinching point oh 0.03, and I was able to pick it up really quick just because I had all of those practice hours
Mhm.
while I was at work. So it's just something for you to think about if you're not even in lashes, if you're an esthetician, if you are a brow artist, it's just to kind of look at your market a little bit better and
Yeah.
just kind of like give yourself do a little bit more research. Just don't go like diving head in and thinking you're all that like I did. I don't regret it obviously. I very much you kind of have to roll with the punches, but I definitely would have wished that I done a little bit more research. But to kind of back to the story of me deciding that I wanted out of lashes. And it was such a weird moment. And I just even like remember I remember the like specific point. So at this point in my career, I'm lashing 4 days a week. I am taking 5 to 6 clients a day. And I was doing online education. I was having online programs and I was doing private mentorship. I was also doing private lash trainings. I just had a lot on my plate because I think there's a really big emphasis. And I think what we see in social media is you have all of this, like, boss babes and boss baddies doing all the things from a product line to training to traveling to online education and, like, in person. And it just seemed like that was the move. Like, that just seemed like what I had to do in order to quote unquote be successful.
Yeah.
And I did all of that. I had all of that going, and on paper, I mean, I was rolling in cash. Mentally and emotionally, I was a hot mess, right? Like I just felt like I was running around like, with my head cut off and I just didn't know which direction to go in. And I was just so exhausted and so tired because when I was at the studio, I was thinking about the programs. When I was doing the programs, I was thinking, right, like it was just constantly like back and forth. It literally felt like I had my feet in two different kayaks trying to move forward. So
Oh,
like
that's such a great analogy.
it was just like the when like lashes was going good, like the online trainings fell back. When the online trainings were like going really good, lashes. So I couldn't keep on doing the dance. So I remember like very specifically, I was leaving my studio, and I think I just literally had like a $1,000 day, right? Like doing great. And I got in my car and I just started crying, like just bawling my eyes out. And I remember looking down, I had like my Starbucks coffee cup and it was like the third cup of the day. I remember like it just very vividly of like where I was at, how I was feeling. And I was like, I don't think this is it. I don't know. Like something has to change. And in order, maybe like just when I taking a few things off my plate, I was like, you know what, let's quit. Actually, let's quit. Let's just like throw everything away. Let's close the studio. Let's sell
You're
everything.
very, like, full throttle, which I feel like I love, like, you're ready to do anything, but I love that you, like, even in quitting, you were like, "No, we're just done."
We're just done, and I am definitely that type of person. Like I just moved to Arizona on a whim. But I'm definitely like that type of person. Like once my mind is on something, like I'm going to do it and I'm gonna figure it out. And I'm like, yes, it will be challenging, but it's like, like my childhood was pretty rough. So I think a lot of that has, contributed to my, adulthood and like how I handle business and just like how I handle life in general. It's like there's always a way through. And in my head too, I think I rationalized it in a way where I at that point I've been doing lashes for so I quit in 2021, 22. I forget. Well, I think 20 no 22. I think is when 23. Shoot, I don't even remember. It doesn't matter. But at that point I have been lashing for I think 7 years. 7 or 8 years. So in my head, I was like, okay, like I've kind of gotten to a point where I've been doing private trainings and like I never like fully scaled. And that's something that I kind of want to touch on too in a little bit. But in my head, I was like, okay, I've been in this for, 7 years and I've been able to get to this point. And I don't really, at that point too, I didn't want to open up a salon. I didn't want to have a storefront and I didn't want to have a product line. So like all the other avenues that I think you could do as a business owner, I just really wasn't interested in that. I genuinely did enjoy seeing my clients. I enjoyed being in studio and I enjoyed private trainings. And I did like some group trainings too and like workshops, but I really just love one-on-one. But one-on-one is really hard to scale. So I was like, you know what? Let's quit it. Let's quit it all because at that point too, I was making enough money online where I could pay my bills.
Love that.
So I was able to pay my bills and then a little bit extra, right? And so it felt like a safe choice where I'm like, okay, it's not like I'm gonna put myself on my ass. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I hope that
Yeah.
money is gonna come in, right? Like it was fairly consistent where I was like making about like 5 to 7K at that time. So I was like, all right, fuck it. Let's just close everything down. I'm like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? It doesn't work. Like, okay, I'll build my books back up again because I've done it multiple times over. I've
Yeah.
already like I moved in Connecticut a few times, like I moved across country. So I'm like, how hard can it be? So that was kind of the mindset. So I really went full throttle with programs, online programs. It was like a lot of mentorship. It was a lot of mindset work. It was definitely a lot of business too. But I think my like the area that I thrive at the most is the way you think about business, the way that you handle business, and really just like your mindset, a little bit of shadow work too. And I think just my experience as a business owner is where I felt like I could provide the most amount of knowledge for other beauty professionals. So I did that for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. And then when I sold everything, it was, they always sell you this dream when you become an online creative or like a, course creator where you can be home and you can make your own schedule and you can get up at whatever time and you have this flexibility and freedom. And they just like paint this beautiful photo. And it wasn't that.
This is good for people to hear because I feel like
Yeah.
the same way the beauty industry gets a little bit glorified of like, it's so fun, it's not really work, but it's really work. And like I think it's exactly what the content creator, content course creator, education's really saturated right now. Like I feel like this is really good for people to hear because it's like a nice little reality check.
And like obviously it's gonna be like whatever you want it to be, but the truth is like sure, can I wake up whenever I wanted to? Yes. But that wherever you like lose a couple hours, you have to put in a few hours, right? So if you
Yeah.
right, like if you choose to like be like, oh, I'm gonna wake up at 10 a.m. Okay, cool. Like that usually means that you're probably gonna be working a lot late. So a lot later. And at that time too, I started a whole new business and I don't think I really realized that.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I remember when I started getting into education, I was like, why is this so hard? Like, it's the same as what I'm doing. And you're like, no, this is a whole different business model. It's a whole different business structure. It's a whole different clientele that you're trying to attract. Like, attracting a client versus attracting another professional to train with you is a completely different situation. And marketing is different and strategy is different. It's a completely different situation. And you throw it online. Again, another difference and I don't know, it's totally different. It doesn't seem like it is because it's within the same industry, but it's totally different.
Yeah, I was doing all the things but what made me realize that I didn't love it as much is it was really such a grind. And like even when you first start lashes or like if you start brows or like your esthetician journey where it's a client based, that shit is so fucking hard in the beginning, okay? Like building your books, getting people in and getting people to stay like that grind period of like 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years of like building that momentum. And then you have people coming in consistently. And then you're like in the groove of things where you're making consistent money and like things are good. But it takes time to like get to that point. But what I realized when I was doing everything at home is there was no separation between work and personal life.
That's a really good point.
Everything really just blended in together. And not only that, I was constantly home. Like I was behind my computer 24/7, putting courses together, programs back end, like making sure like everything was flowing smoothly. Like there's so much that goes into like learning different platforms, like learning how to make a sales page, making sure that you have, email sequences afterwards. Like there's just so much that happens when you put something together. And obviously when you do it multiple times over, like yes, it gets a lot easier. But I just genuinely realized that it was a lot of give, give, give. I was just giving like my everything that I knew to other people. And while I love supporting and helping so much, I I just I don't know. I felt so depleted at the same time. And I somewhere somehow I had convinced myself that I am a homebody and that I'm an introvert. which is literally so far from the freaking truth. Because, I think at the time too, like clients sometimes can be draining. I think we can all be honest about that, right? Like you have certain clients that come in and will totally like trauma dump on you and you're like, what do you want me to do about? So you really have to kind of like learn how to put up a little mental shield and kind of like how to like navigate all of that. But I just I was not fulfilled in a way that I thought I was going to be fulfilled. Like, yes, I love my life in a sense where I did have the flexibility and freedom, but also like literally all of my other friends were still like in service with clients.
Yeah. You were a little isolated.
So I felt super isolated, and also like the market is so competitive.
Yes, it is. The educational world is very interesting, especially the online aspect. I totally second that.
Yeah, it's definitely very competitive, which like was fine. I wasn't like super worried about that, but it just like it was super exciting in the beginning because I think I am one of those people where I love bringing an idea to life. I do love the grind period. I love learning. I love growing. I like love testing different theories and things and just seeing how things will play out and what sticks and what doesn't stick. Like I do enjoy that process, but then I think once I get like past that, I'm bored.
Yes.
And that's
I
and
feel like this is a
that's
common occurrence in the beauty industry too. I feel like, especially for entrepreneurship, I think that we just get like we're so excited about a goal and a passion and everything, and sometimes the passion is fuel, and sometimes it's draining. And I think that
yes.
that's when we like lean towards that boredom, and we're like, oh, do I still want to do this?
Yeah, and I kind of like had to ask myself to like multiple times over of like, okay, what is the ideal situation here for me, right? Like what would be the ideal life? And the ideal life that I thought that I wanted wasn't really it. It was a lot of like ideologies of what I've seen online. What
Yeah.
what other people basically said their ideal life was, but I didn't know it at the time, right? It's kind of like, but I think the really good like analogy that I can give is when you grow up, maybe when you grow up with not much and you get your first nice car and you're like, yes, bitch, like I got this, like you just feel so proud and like so successful. But then as time goes on, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't really like matter as much as you think you do, and you kind of just maybe come to realize that the things that are put in front of you or like the things that are glorified a lot of the times has to do with like status and social media, what you see on social media that is glorified. So like when you get it and have it, you think it's supposed to make you feel a certain way and it actually doesn't. So
I
it
think we also think that like whoever we see that's kind of like inspiration for wanting it and things like that, we kind of just think that once we fill the same shoes, that we're gonna be like living the same lifestyle and having the same energy. We pinpoint like one thing that they're doing and think that it's gonna change the whole bigger picture. And I agree with you. I think sometimes we lie a little bit to ourselves about like whatever I'm doing currently, I don't like, so I want to pivot and like that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. And you're like, hey, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it actually looks like. I don't know what that day to day is. And like there's so many things and elements that are missing when we try to like copy and paste that picture. And I agree with you. I think there's also a little bit of lying that we do to ourselves about what we actually want because we don't know. And so I think we grasp at the first thing that looks good. And then we're like, oh, I think there's just so much introspective work when we're making these big shifts that we kind of, from time to time, forget to do.
absolutely. And I feel like I always learn everything the hard way, which is fine because
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely like my job and just like an honor to like share my journey and my story from obviously somebody that's been in it for like other beauty professionals too, because I know that there's so many people that want to walk away. I know there's people that want to walk away and want to do something else because it's boring and whatever, la la la. But to kind of like wrap it, I went fully online, and then 6 to 8 months in, I was like, okay, this is not it. This is like I just can't picture doing this. Like genuinely, I couldn't picture doing that forever. And I was like, I just felt like something really was missing. And then I kind of had like a little health scare where I needed insurance. And if you're self-employed, you know how expensive insurance is. So obviously I was without insurance. And I was like, you know what? I'm bored. I don't really know what to do. Let me get a job. Let me get let me go and do something because I really miss people. I miss talking to people. I miss the connection. And I love Trader Joe's. I'm a big Trader Joe's girly. I have been since I was going through aesthetic school, it was like the one thing that kept me fed. I used to go to Trader Joe's all the time. Their frozen section, chef's kiss. So
Absolutely.
I applied at Trader Joe's. I got a job at Trader Joe's. And it was so funny because like when I first started, my paychecks, you don't make any money,
Oh my
right?
god.
You
This is
make
so real.
no money, okay? Because it's like so Trader Joe's pays you every 2 weeks, and I think when I first started as a crew member, I think it was making like uh, 18.95 or like I don't know, almost like 19 bucks an hour, which literally is nothing. But I went there for health insurance. Like Trader Joe's, like genuinely takes care of the crew. They like Trader Joe's cares as a company, and I'm still with Trader Joe's as of right now. So I was so elated. It was like the coolest experience because I haven't had like a real corporate job pretty much ever. I did try a little bit of
Okay.
real estate. I haven't worked the corporate world. I did try a little bit of real estate, but again, you kind of work for yourself. And then I
Yeah.
was a CNA in my like early, I think I was 20. I was a CNA for a little bit because I thought I wanted to go to nursing school. I was like, fuck that, hated that, didn't want to do it. And that's kind of like when I started working for myself. But I was in like entertainment industry, like service industry, like restaurants, bars, stuff like that. So I've never actually worked corporate. And when I tell you, I was so relieved when I got to Trader Joe's because the people, first of all, were so cool. And they're so nice working somewhere where you know what's expected of you. And when you do a good job, all is well. You get paid. Even if you mess up, you get paid.
I was gonna say it's so different than what we like being a small business owner. There's so much luxury to just clocking in and clocking out. Like there's like it's something that I think we forget about all the time. Like, could all of us go back to that job? I don't know. Like I personally don't think that I could. I'm just not that type of person. But I 1000% have the moments where I'm like, oh, that sounds so nice. It's your like dream world. I'm just like that sounds wonderful. Some big company just taking care of you and like the all your responsibility is to do your job. And like I love that.
Literally, so and, like, I got promoted super quick. They're like, "Hey," like, literally, I think it was,
For
like,
hard workers.
a couple weeks in, because I was just, like, slaying left and right, because it's easy, right? Like,
Yes, right?
when you're a business owner, you wear so many hats, so when I got to Trader Joe's, they're like, "Oh, like, you have to, put up you're, like, in charge of, like, certain sections." They're like, "Oh, you have to work," like, we call it wet pro, so it's, like, wet produce, like, salads and, fruits and all the things, like, "Hey, take care of that section. Say less." And literally it was like boop, 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 done. Like easy peasy. That's all I have to do. Like I don't have to come up with a marketing plan. I don't have to figure out how to put it on social media. I don't have to do newsletters. Like, oh, like this is freaking cake. So literally a couple weeks in, I got pulled aside and they're like, "Hey, like, are you interested in management?" I said, "Hell no. Like, I just want to come. I literally, like, I'm here to socialize. I want to socialize. I'm here for a good time, not a long time." And that was kind of the whole goal is I wanted insurance. I had some health things that I needed to take care of, and I wanted community. And I didn't get that in the online world. And like, sure, you can go on retreats and you talk to people all day, but there's just nothing that beats in-person hugs and like seeing people's emotions and talking the raw, real, like in moment. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
there's just something so beautiful about that. And the moment that I got to Trader Joe's, I knew that I wanted to start Lashes back up again.
yeah,
But ego work
yes.
ego work is like a forever going thing where I am definitely like a prideful person. So because if I choose to do something, I usually never will go back. Like once I put my mind on something, I'm like, okay, I close that door for a reason, right? Like that was kind of really like my idea. But then when I got to Trader Joe's, I'm like, I'm having so much fun talking to people, clocking in. Like I looked forward to going to work.
Wow, that's such a good sign.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, like there's like something about it. And then I got promoted. I got into so Trader Joe's, they call it crew position, and then you have mates, which is like management, and then you have captain, which is basically the store manager. Like we have like one store manager. So I got into management and I started making a little bit more money and whatever, but it was still that need of like something like there's something here. And then I think once I had like Trader Joe's, it felt safer to really just let go of the online world, right? It was very much like I was doing stuff behind the scenes, but I had an account that I basically closed down. I like disappeared off the face of the earth, and I just really was trying to figure it out. I didn't really know what I wanted, and it was definitely that in between, that grind, and just a lot of thoughts, a lot of, okay, if I do go back, what would that look like? And, there was definitely thoughts of, will I look silly? Is it dumb? Will people even believe in me? Do I seem flaky? Right? There was a lot of work and just like thoughts that were coming up that made me feel like maybe I shouldn't, right? Like there's a lot of like internal dilemma that you have when you make such a big decision to close your business down and
Yeah.
then starting it back up again, right? There's a lot of like conflict. But again, in my head, I was like, okay, I was like, if I do start it up and it doesn't work, it's fine. And I don't really I don't like I didn't like that I went into it with that mindset. But my friend Alondra literally hugs and kisses through the screen if she ever listens to this. She's like, "Hey, like do my lashes, like she's like just like try see if you can, still do it." I was like, "Girl, I haven't picked up in tweezers in 2 years. Like I don't even know if I can lash."
Yeah, right.
She's like, like do a set. And then my friend Maddie, Lightheart, she's like, "Hey, when you're ready, let me know. I got a space for you."
Oh.
I was like, "Let me try first. Like, let
Yeah.
me see if I can lash. Like, I need something with no commitment. Like, let me take like 5 clients and see if I can do this." Literally, the moment that I picked up my tweezers and I had my first client, I was like, "Okay, friend,
Um,
we are in, baby." I missed it so much. It was just so nice, like chatting it up with my clients, and I don't know, like there was just like the spark and like inspiration, and it really just made me realize like why I chose lashes in the first place. And like, yes, at the time it kind of was survival, and like, yes, lashes did fall into my lap, but I am definitely the type of person where if it doesn't work, I will eventually walk away. Like I will not stay in something that genuinely doesn't bring me joy and happiness for a really long time. I have to I love something that I do at least 80% of the time. And lashes has been that thing for me that I have loved for like there's been nothing like lashes for me. And I made so many, incredible connections and people and friends, and like, like I my whole life changed when I started lashes. That the way that I was able to provide for myself, I was able to pay for my nana's nursing home, I was able to pay for my mom's mortgage. Like there's just so many things that, being an entrepreneur and being self-employed provides for you that really no one else is going to do it for you if you do it for yourself. Nobody's going to love your business as much as you love your business. So to kind of full circle, I ended up starting lashes back up again. And, I was taking models, and in August, at the end of August into September, it's going to be a year since I've been back to,
wow.
lashing, which is crazy. Like just time flies. And like recently too, I stepped down from management at Trader Joe's and kind of you know? I think we're weaning our way out. Um, Obviously, I love the company. I literally have nothing but good things to say. I'm still there because the people are great, and the benefits are awesome, and that like the flexibility and stuff. Like it's just a really good company to work for, and I'm just like happy that I chose that for myself at that time, and just again like never being you're never too good to work.
Look, I love you, but your threading game, it's giving Pinterest fail. Stop torturing your clients and yourself with made up techniques. My hand tied threading course is where you actually learn how to do it right. Perfect tension, painless technique, and brows that could cut glass. It's online, self paced, and will have you feeling like the threading queen you were meant to be. Go click the link in the show notes. Your clients' faces will thank you. Yes, I think we
You
get really far away from that when you've been in the industry for so long. And I think it's funny because I do think that we're like, could I do it? Could I not do it? Like we're hard workers for sure, but sometimes we do get that too big for your britches kind of a vibe of like, I could never work for somebody else again. You're just like, you could.
Yeah, I think there's like a not like a taboo, but there's definitely like a certain sense of entitlement or like pride and ego that comes in when you've done something and you've done a good job at it. You're like, I could never do that. But one
Yeah.
thing about me, like, I literally come from nothing, like trailer park, mac and cheese, like cars repoed, like I come from not much. So I will always work wherever I have to, whatever I have to do to like make money. I'm never too good for any type of job. Like, of course, I want to be selective about what I do and I want to love what I do. But at the end of the day, like if push comes to shove, like I'll fucking work at McDonald's. I don't give a shit. Like build,
Right.
like life is gonna keep on yeah, like life is gonna keep on going. Do I want to do that? No, but I think there's something about even like coming up to and maybe if you are at a point in your business where things are tough and maybe the other side seems greener. I just, now that I've done both, right? Like I've literally I've taken so many different avenues. There's something that I didn't practice enough, and it was gratitude for what I had.
Uh,
It's never that I was ungrateful, right? Like I worked my ass off, but I think when you're in it and like when you're fully booked and like when you're doing all the things, sometimes like especially if you're like a goal-oriented person, it's like hard to see. It was always like what's next. And
yeah,
I was like never satisfied with what was.
I've been realizing that recently how much like you like trying to put myself in my shoes from 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and being like, calm the fuck down. Like you would die for what you have now. And you need to remember that. Like anytime you're like, God, the needle's not moving far enough. I'm not getting enough bookings. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And you're being so hard on yourself. I'm just like, okay, let's circle back. How would I have felt about where my current position is when I was struggling, 5 years, however many years ago, however many months ago? And I just feel like you're right. Like the gratitude for whatever reason, it gets slips and it falls. And I'm just like, it sounds silly to be like, I need to be grateful, but you do need to be grateful. Like I feel like it's a good way to show your level of accomplishment. I just feel like because we're constantly trying to push that bar forward. We're trying to climb the ladder. We're trying to go up another level. We're trying to do these things, and I feel like in the midst of the grind, you really forget how many ladders that rung you've already climbed. And I feel like it's humbling, and it's also just like I don't know, I think it helps fuel the passion. I think if I don't ever look back, I am constantly looking forward and not happy with where I am. I think it's a hard way to see your growth and how far you've come if you're never looking back to where you were day one.
Yeah, and I think a really big like realization that I had for myself too is just figuring out what do I want my life to look like. And I feel like I've had so many different versions of it, and I've asked myself this in so many different points in my life, and it's always been different. And I think you definitely have to just sometimes like take the journey, go down the path to like realize what it is. But like now that I am back and I'm still building, right? Like I'm still building my books, like I'm not fully booked yet, and I'm totally okay admitting that. But there's just so many other cool things that I've done like this time around too that I'm like so proud of, like, bringing on a skincare line while actually having like two skincare lines. And like, yeah, it's just like I've definitely taken a whole different approach, and I'm like super proud of that. But like looking back to of like how booked and busy I was, because I have some screenshots of like I think my calendar or like my schedule in 2021, and I was like, damn bitch, like I looked at that schedule. I'm like, I made like 4,500 in 1 week, and that was just like Lash money. That wasn't even like the online stuff. Definitely just like going back to I think we do forget the gratitude, and I think when you're in the thick of it, it's just sometimes it can be really overwhelming. But also just reminding yourself of like why you worked so hard, why you took the path, like why you chose to do what you do, whether you are a brow artist, a lash artist, or if you're any kind of, like a treatment room. Uh, I think it's just important to like realize that it's not always greener on the other side. And like, yes, I work at Trader Joe's and I love it, but there's absolutely nothing like having your own business and
Yeah.
building something from ground up, and just like putting your all into something that just not fuels only your passion, but also like helps the community around you and people. And you just you you create a community, and you make people feel good about themselves. And like the stories, I don't know, there's just something so beautiful about having a in-person business where now that I have it again, like I would be so happy lashing until I'm 70 and just doing that.
Exactly how I feel. And anytime that, because like I feel similar to how you were when you were doing the courses and the lashing and all of that, because that's kind of where I am at in my business, not to the same caliber or degree, but I feel that pull and tug in all those different directions. And it's really funny that like the one thing that's grounding is behind the chair. When I get to go and just do, and it feels like my job, like the clocking in, clocking out, like that's what the behind the chair and working with clients, it almost is just the easy part. It's the part of the business that runs itself and fuels the passion. I just get so excited, and you really crush a brow or whatever it is, and the client's super happy. You get that smile at the end when you handle the mirror, and the conversations and being brought in when they're engaged or they're pregnant for the first time, or just like all of those life cycles that you run through, like graduated from college or everything. Like there's so many elements that I just like boiled and distilled down. Like that's just the love. Like I get asked on occasion, like what's your plan? Like, are you planning on leaving the treatment room? Like, what's your goal with education? And I'm just like, hell no. Hell no. I'm never
Yeah.
leaving behind the chair. Like, I love my clients. I love what I get to do every day in that aspect, and everything else is just kind of extra.
I think growing with people is like the coolest part of our job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
think just growing with people and obviously like doing events and growing yourself as a person. But like you said too, when you have people coming in with good stories and sad stories and just seeing people like overcome so many different stages and then they still choose you. I think there's like
Right.
something like so beautiful about that when you have clients that have been with you, from when you did shit work, and like
Right.
now when you're actually doing a good job. There's like nothing just more rewarding when they see you also grow but you also like see them grow. There's just, I don't know, there's no better feeling like it. But it took me leaving, it took me quitting,
Yeah.
it took me trying a different avenue. It just took all of these different trials and errors to really just do full circle and come back to what I truly love and what I am good at. And I didn't see it at the time, right? And obviously see it now. So even if you do maybe choose to walk away, or maybe you have walked away if you are listening to this, like you can always go back. Like do not let your ego, do not let your pride just like stop you from like fulfilling what makes you happy. Because I'm gonna be so for real, people actually don't care as much as you think they do.
Oh my
And
god,
like
it's so real.
even if we feel like every little thing that we do people are watching, not many people are. Like yes, people are like watching and they're curious, but I've had people ask me that like, why did you come back? Like, is it weird? I'm like, it's only weird if you make it weird,
Right?
you know? And are people gonna judge and maybe like think of you a certain way? Sure, but people are gonna judge and like think and like talk and do whatever anyways. And also
Yeah,
like
what
those
are
people
your
are, yeah,
6
those
feet of your
people are like
feelings?
weird, yeah, like weird as fuck. Like if you are so like obsessed about what I'm doing, like
Says more about
that's,
you.
yeah, more about you than it does about me. So like just never be, I don't know, never be scared or like never be just hesitant of really just going after what you want, even if you maybe stepped away or like thinking about, walking away. I think just walking the walk and walking the journey, I think is going to teach you a lot about yourself. And I'm glad that I did, right? Like I'm glad that I've had all of these different avenues to put me back, right? Like where I started.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you brought in skincare into your studio space, and I love that, but I it's something that I feel like when we see lashing, I don't normally see a whole lot of like the skincare crossover, maybe like cleansers and things like that that can help strengthen the, retention of the lashes and the health of the hair and everything, but it's such an interesting kind of pivot. What sparked that idea? What kind of made you want to bring that into your studio space?
Because I want to do facials.
Really? Oh my god, I love that.
There is a lot of things that I didn't take advantage of when I did lashes the first time around. I was strictly a lash artist and a lash educator. And like I didn't have retail. I didn't really just tap into my license. Like I'm a licensed esthetician
Absolutely.
that just, you like needed for lashes in Arizona, but now anyways, there's like other things to that. But the point is I would love probably next year to actually like expand and have like a full blown treatment room. So in my head, first of all, like I have been using medical grade skincare for a really long time. I have been using a Glymed and like PCA and a couple other like medical grade brands for the last 6 years. And I always have been super passionate about skin. I feel like I've helped people with skin behind, closed doors, but just like friends and family and whatever. They're always like, "Hey, like, what are you using?" La la la. So I feel like I've always done that anyways. But I'm passionate about skincare in general. I feel like yes, lashes is temporary. So is brows, unless it's, like tattooed brows. But I feel like skincare is just something that like you started today and you like see effects 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, right? And I don't know. I have helped so many people with like acne and like other like skin issues that I was like, you know what, let me just talk about it. And I just like started talking about my routine and what I was using and what I was doing. And then it turned into, hey, where can I get that? And then, it was just like, it was kind of like a domino effect of people like wanting skincare and like asking questions. And then I carry Glymed and Epicurus in my studio. I just brought on Epicurus a month and a half ago. And just like such like good like feedback and like results from my clients. But in my head, it's kind of like backwards. But I figured if I can bring on skincare now and get people on a routine now and get people results now, then 6 to 8 months when I decide that I want to offer facials, I think it's going to be a no-brainer for
Yeah.
people because they have already seen the results from the products. They already trust my opinion. So it's kind of like I'm taking a different approach to it. I'm doing skincare first and then
You are, but I love it. It's such an interesting approach because it's not something that you see. Like, I feel like it's definitely the opposite of how it's usually done. But I think that's also just like the wonderful beauty of our industry is that, like, and clients, like, everybody's not going to take how we do things or the right way to do things or whatever you want to say. Everybody's open. And I love the fact that, like, this is so much about, like, finding your people and your clientele. Like, the way that you do things specifically will attract the people that want to do things in that way, and I just love it. It's so fun to see the creativity even in, like, that way.
yeah, it's just there's so many different things that I want to do now and try and just like play around with that I feel like I didn't give myself time. But now that I have the time, I'm like, okay, like I love educating. I feel like that has always just been my passion from day one. I feel like an educated client is a good client, whether that is skincare, whether that is brows, whether that is lashes, like the more that you know, the better of a decision that you can make for yourself. And that's like ultimately my goal, even if you don't buy from me, even if if you don't do any of those things. I think just like understanding what your skin needs, what your brows need, what your lashes need in order for you to be happy and fulfilled and like, thrive and feel good in your body, like I've done my job if I'm able to like support you with that.
Absolutely. So, I feel like the start of this podcast has all honestly been such a good sign of this, but I've always felt like you're such an incredible storyteller on socials. What advice would you give somebody trying to implement that in their social media marketing? Kinda like the storytelling and bringing them in to make a offers, make a sale, get a booking.
Yeah, I think something that I have always thought of, and I think I've told like all of my students too, is I ask myself what makes me buy. And I'm not just like talking about like a money exchange. That's like the final part of everything. But like what makes you choose, a MAC lipstick over YSL or the other way around? Or like what makes you choose to consume this person's content? Or like what makes you go to Target instead of Walmart, right? Like there's so many like micro decisions that we make day in and day out, but I feel like we rarely ever think about why we do those things. And I think when you can break down and understand the reason why you do what you do, I think it's really easy to put a story together on why you chose this in the first place. And something that I really love doing is just walking people through the emotions and feelings that they most likely are feeling when they're about to make that decision. So like I'm trying to think of like an offer that I had. So I had an online program called the Mall Kiosk Vulture. Like I love that program. It was great.
Yeah, I think I'm in that program.
Yeah, that it was called the Mall Kiosk Vulture, or like how to like not sell like a mall kiosk. I forget exactly what the title was, but it was basically like Mall Kiosk Vulture, and everybody knew that. So it's like I found a correlating story of like when you go to the mall and you literally have those like little kiosk stands and you have the little vultures in there that try to hand you like hand cream and basically pull your hand and put things in your hand and you're like, what the hell? Like I don't even want to talk to you. Like you pretend that you're on the phone and that you're like doing anything else. You don't want to make any eye contact. You avoid the floor. And like you know exactly what I'm talking about and you know the exact feeling. And it was so easy to run with that because sometimes we feel like that when we sell online, right? It's like the icky. And I feel like that was like a really good drawing point. So that was like a real life example. And I think having a real life example of pulling people in and like understanding that feeling that they're feeling, it's really easy to stack on that and then like add the information and education and why this, would be pivotal for them. But I also think that people buy in feeling. So that program specifically, I think, was bought largely on feeling and obviously like, what it was going to deliver as well. But like knowing that you don't want to feel like that was the selling point and the whole story behind that. So I think being able to like find a story around of what you're trying to do is what's gonna make the sale and pull everything together.
Love that. On that note of just kind of like storytelling for social media, do you have any like content creation tips that you would give to somebody in our industry, either growing a new business or trying to get clients booked?
I think content creation tips, it really just depends on kind of where you're at in your journey. I think when it comes to creation in general, my objective always is of like, what am I trying to do here? And who am I trying to like bring along in the journey? It's always going to be like education and then also like sharing a part of myself, just because I think when you're a content creator, especially if you're in the media industry, you are usually the face of your brand. So I think there is like a trust building phase. That's also the whole expertise area. I think that's what gets people to trust you, of you showing up, you sharing, you educating. That's like, okay, she's credible. She actually knows what she's talking about. She has results. But I think the biggest content creation tip I can give is I don't plan anything. I used to. I I think understanding how your brain works and how you operate creatively is going to give you a lot of freedom that you don't see people talking about online. Like I don't batch my content. What I will do is I have my notes app. I write down all of my ideas because like I think as business owners, we wear so many different hats, and I don't operate in a way I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna create content today. Like that doesn't fucking feel good. What the hell? Like I don't like
They
that. That
already don't like
just
structure, that's kind of their whole shtick.
yeah, like I literally like if you've listened to this whole story, you can tell that I'm all over the place, and I just I try all the things and I just operate really well like that. And I feel like I'm just a learner like of life. But what I do is I write down all of my ideas that I have for content, like if there's a conversation that I want to have, and it's like super rough draft. It's like very ugly. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but then like I keep on writing in there like ideas or maybe conversations that I'm having with clients. And then like there's a day that I'm like, okay, actually I have time. Let me go into my notes and just kind of see like what I pulled together over like the last 2 weeks. Okay, cool. I can make 10 pieces of content. Now I actually want to create content because I have the content to create, instead of like, what should I create today? Like it should never be like that. I think just having like a rough draft in my notes, that's just what really works well for me. And then I can kind of like build on those content ideas or conversations or whatever that I've had like jotted down in my notes app.
I love that. So, one thing that I did notice recently, you had posted that you are now doing trainings again, like in-person trainings for lashing. How does it feel kind of tiptoeing back into the educational world? You talked a lot about, removing yourself from that, leaving the online space, and then coming back to lashing. How does it feel to kind of start to kind of tiptoe towards that direction again?
I'm so excited. I think I just wanted to do education a little bit differently this time. It's kind of cool too. So, obviously, taking a 2 year sabbatical, the beauty industry moves fast. Let
It
me tell
does.
you, it moves so fast. What was 2 years ago and what it is now, entirely different. But I think the foundation never changes. Foundation of business, foundation of how to do certain things like that never changes. Like, yes, the marketing will change and like, yes, the trends will change, but I think the fundamentals and the like foundation is often going to be the same. But I'm honestly so excited. I love helping. I love supporting. There's just nothing cooler than being behind a chair with like somebody else that is maybe like struggling with like fan making, and like just being able to see how the hand moves. Like, okay, this is the tweak. It's very easy for me to pick out on what you're doing wrong when we're in person. I can move your hand. I can show you, like move people's like eye and like just like different like things where you can just like in person. That's where I've had the most like growth and support in my business when I've taken in-person trainings. Like, of course, online is great too when you do online stuff, but when you're performing in-person services, I think having like in-person training and support is everything.
Totally agree. I love that. If you were to give advice to somebody looking for an educator or a training, what are like a couple things that stand out to you when you're trying to learn something new, or like an advice of what to look for in like an educator or trainer?
I think the biggest thing is knowing that they can walk the talk. It's one thing when somebody is a really good marketer. And
Yes,
sometimes it's really hard to see past good marketing and good education. A good marketer and good educator, two different things. Can they
100%.
be the same at twice? Like both can both be true, yes. But also like for me, when I have taken the trainings and educations, I also reach out to students, past students. Like when I see them posting, like their students and whatever, I reach out and I ask what their experience was.
That's a great
I
tip.
Yeah, I usually will reach out to them too and kind of ask the success rate. I ask kind of what is provided, what does the learning look like? What is like the after? Like, do we have any access to you after? I just kind of ask all the questions and I always try to see like, are they forthcoming? Or they're like, hey, here's the link, right? Like
Yeah,
basically, like I'm gonna give you information after you pay. Like if it's kind of like if it's more of a transaction for them, I'm not really interested.
I agree.
But there's also something to be said about when you choose an educator that is actually going to teach you something. And then I also think that there's educators that will put you on the playing field with the top of the food chain, so to speak. Meaning, I'm sure that there's brow educations and like trainers out there that have like million followers and they're like so well known. I think it's maybe, I don't know if it's Brow Daddy. I don't know if he does like brow education or whatever. So I think if you're certified by somebody like that, I think clients are going to be like, oh my God, right? So I think there's like a difference between of like what is going to make you a better, better artist. And then I think there's also trainings and things that you can do that I think are going to elevate you in the eyes of clients, if
Yeah,
that makes sense, right? So
tot
I think in the lash industry, if you're taking a lash maker's course, I think it's going to give you a lot of credibility. She was like one of the big pioneers, especially in the beginning. Like she still like does trainings and stuff, but I think smaller brands are like really making a wave right now. Big brands are kind of not as relevant anymore.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I think people want to feel the connection. I think that's a really like big factor moving forward. So I think smaller brands, indie brands are really gonna like really make it. I think that like next 5 years is gonna be all about smaller brands and just
I
more
agree.
about the in connection in person. I think people want to feel seen and heard and just be part of something bigger, but also feel like
Yeah.
close knit.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be more community based and mentorship based versus just like a check and then a training and you're done. I totally see it moving in that direction. And I think it's good. I think there needs to be more like standing together versus just paying somebody and moving on and never talking to them again. I know that doesn't sit well with me. And I definitely have had trainings like that where I'm like, oh, I don't talk to anyone that I took that class with. I don't talk to anyone that ran the course or anything like that. And then you flip it to the people that are the courses that were complete opposites. You're like, well, I would recommend that one over the other one.
Exactly. Yeah, I think like actually also knowing what you want to learn. And I think the
Yeah,
areas that you struggle in is really
yeah,
important. So I think if you know exactly like I think it helps when you can pinpoint the areas that you need support in the most because I think sometimes we can kind of take trainings almost not blindly, but like oh like this would be good, like this would be fun or whatever, but fun and like what you actually need are two different things. So it's just I think being honest with yourself and being able to like pick that apart is also going to give you a better experience.
I agree. Is there something that you would love to talk about that you never get asked about?
Yeah, my fantasy romance books.
Yeah,
My God.
I love
Yeah, can we
that,
talk about that?
right? That's a whole other episode.
It's just so funny. No, I definitely do get asked about that, but I think it's just like a fun way to like end the episode. But I think something that I am also like super passionate about like lately, it's just like books in general. I feel like over like the last 2 years, I think I've read like 300 books or like I listen
Yes,
a
I
lot
love
of I listen a lot, especially when you're lashing. Like a lot of my clients are quiet. Like they just kind of want to chill. They want to like, we'll talk like the first 15, 20 minutes, but then people are like, fall asleep. And
yeah,
I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to sit here with my thoughts.
yeah.
I'm going to listen to a book. I'm gonna do something. I'm not gonna be, bored. Because I feel like even like when you're doing a service like that, it's obviously it's very like, hand memory and like your mind and brain like wanders somewhere else and you're like, thinking about what to make for
Yeah,
dinner or whatever. So I listen a lot of books, but yeah, my favorite always probably is going to be like any kind of like fantasy, like romance books. I'm totally in. So
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. It's so true. I always feel like I get jealous over the longevity of a lash appointment of just sitting there and being able to do stuff like that because like browsers so quick and the turnover is so fast and you're in and out. But I love that. That's so fun.
yeah, I feel like if I was to like pick a like if one day I decided that I didn't want to do lashes again, which I highly doubt is going to happen, but I would really just like love to do like book reviews and just like taking like cool
Right?
photos of like books and covers and just like I've like
Some
really
book
thought about like
content
making,
creator.
yeah, up, yes. Say less,
Right?
I'm in. Yep. I've like gone to like a few like book conventions and like just like little like book stuff things that I feel like I'm like really just growing into like who I am and like what I enjoy.
Yes. Oh, I love
Which
that.
like it's really different where like now I actually have like a hobby and like there's like certain things that I do and like people that I talk to that's just like really outside of business. But I do think in the beginning it's definitely like important to like follow the grind and the grind period. But I'm just like proud of myself now that I've like kind of like made full circle and I'm able to like I hate the word balance because I think when you like truly love something, I don't think there's ever going to like really I don't think you need balance, but
I totally agree.
I think it just like having things that you enjoy outside of business really can
Not making
like
your whole life a business.
yeah,
Yeah.
like fuel yourself in your business, but then also like outside of business. I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
we can, make our business our whole identity. And that was
Totally
probably
agree.
like the hardest part for me was the really just figuring out who I am outside of business. That was the hardest lesson for
It's
me, like
kind
through
of
it all.
scary. Yeah, it's scary. I feel like I know that I've definitely have felt that way. You cling to who you are, and it's. I mean, there's ego there. I feel hella proud of what I built, so I love like. Why wouldn't you want to stand into in that power? But the shitty part is you get lost, and I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
I can't be. This can't be my entire being. Like my like what I do for fun can't be this. Like, is it fun? Yes, but I need to like there needs to be other things, and I think that it's one of those things that I feel like we see a lot with entrepreneurship too is just like finding a hobby and being like, "Oh, how can I make money off this?" And you're like, "Stop. Stop." Like it does not always need to be funny.
100%. It's everything. Like, I think when you are just like an entrepreneur at heart, you're
Yes.
always trying to find, like
I'm like,
ways to
"Calm down."
monetize. Yeah. I'm like, can you just fucking chill for a
Yeah,
second?
like, you just read the
For
book.
a second, and like it's so funny that you say that because even when I was thinking about my books, yeah, like when I was thinking about my books, I'm like, I wonder like how much money I can make online doing this. Carol, enjoy what you're doing, please.
Just enjoy the damn book.
My
Well, this
God.
was such a fun episode. I am so happy to have you on Education. This was great. I am so stoked for listeners to hear it, and you are just a joy. I love being in your world. I'm so glad that we connected on social media, and working with you has always been a pleasure. And I just can't thank you enough for being here.
Of course, I hope that I was able to provide value. And yeah, if you guys have any questions and you ever want to reach out to me for any kind of support, I hang out on Instagram. I think, yeah, Instagram, and I guess you could email me too, but I'm mostly on Insta. My Insta is Lash Chance Artistry.
And we will put all of her information in the notes so that you can find her
Yeah.
as well. Make sure to give her a follow because she is wonderful.
Yeah, and then if you have any spicy book recommendations, you hit me up, okay?
Thank you again for being here, Carol. I will catch you guys all next Thursday.
Bye.